But there is apparently, at least I believe I saw Caleb shooting a deck tech earlier, so you guys may be seeing that in a bit if you haven't already. And Caleb's going to start things off for us with an Underground Sea into a Deathrite Shaman.
That is absolutely the best one drop any kind of shardless deck can start off with, whether you're 3 or 4 colors. He didn't use a fetch land, but Mike does use a fetch land for him,
Yeah.
feeding him some potential mana next turn.
Absolutely, making that Deathrite Shaman into a potential Birds of Paradise. So Swamp, or Marsh Flats into basic Swamp from Mike Hawthorne. And it looks like he's going to kick things off with either, looks like maybe a Thoughtseize, I'm guessing. And it is a foil Thoughtseize.
It would have to be to do this at sorcery speed. Yeah, foil Thoughtseize. He's got the Guru Swamp. So Mike Hawthorne, maybe a bling baller here.
That's right.
In the feature match, sitting at 8-2 with Reanimator. Caleb Durward at 7, 2-1 with the 4-color shardless agent deck.
So you see he's got Tarmogoyf, Force of Will, Brainstorm, Verdant Catacombs, and I believe that is a promo version of Punishing Fire.
It would have to be.
And you see the Force of Will is the choice for the Thoughtseize, so Mike has potentially cleared the way for a turn 2 reanimation spell. Caleb's going to go ahead and Brainstorm, though, and try to find some way to interact with whatever Mike has going on over there. He does find another Brainstorm, and his hand appears to be Brainstorm, Abrupt Decay, Tarmogoyf, and 2 fetch lands.
Punishing Fire is a card that these decks really use to control creature swarms, so not that useful in this matchup. Whenever Mike Hawthorne gets a creature, it's going to be gigantic.
Yeah, so Caleb has put it on top with his Brainstorm, and he's got a Polluted Delta there to shuffle it away. So in the meantime, Mike Hawthorne plays a Polluted Delta of his own, immediately cracks it, taking a look at his hand, trying to decide what he wants to fetch. Looks like he's going with Basic Island. Guru Island, it looks like.
Yeah, it is.
He likes his promo, foil, Guru, all the kind of
I believe all these
cards.
fetch lands have been foils as well.
Yeah.
This is a reminder for all of you guys watching at home, when you are playing Magic the Gathering and you have very expensive decks like this, or even if you have a cheap budget deck, please be sure to take care of it, watch your stuff. Theft, unfortunately, is a thing. I'm not going to say it's prevalent in our community, but it happens enough that we should all take care of our things and take care of each other's things. Watch out for your fellow players.
Absolutely. So a Ponder from Mike Hawthorne off of that basic Guru Island. It's a foil Ponder, and it may even be foreign. I think it's possibly Japanese or Chinese. I'd guess Japanese.
So yeah, Mike Hawthorne, all the bling you could ask for. Trying to find his combination here, combination of some kind of creature to put in his graveyard and a reanimation effect.
He doesn't like what he sees with Ponder, even after that fetch land, so he's going to go ahead and draw a mystery card off the top. It happens to be Force of Will, so that's a nice way to protect his combo. He's going to pass back to Caleb.
The problem is that Caleb Durward on turn 1 landed a Deathrite Shaman, and this is an excellent main board enemy for any kind of graveyard deck. There you see him chip away, exiling that Ponder to make Mike lose 2 life, and Caleb just needs to leave Deathrite Shaman up with a Bayou, and he can choose either a spell or a creature to exile.
Yeah, that seems to be Caleb's plan at this point in the match. He's got a Brainstorm. He's going to go ahead and cast that. That's that second Brainstorm that he found off the first. And he's resolving that now. It looks like he's found another copy of Punishing Fire, which is immediately going away.
Get out of here.
Yeah, stop coming back. He's going to have Tarmogoyf, Abrupt Decay, Baleful Strix, and a third Brainstorm alongside. It looks like a Polluted Delta there in the middle. And that's what he plays here, Polluted Delta. He's going to crack it immediately so that he can refresh the top of his library, shuffle away that Punishing Fire, and I believe it was another land. So Volcanic Island is the choice off of the Polluted Delta.
And we keep bagging on Punishing Fire. It's not a bad card. It's actually an excellent card in conjunction with Grove of the Burn Willows to keep recurring it. It returns to your hand when your opponent gains life, and Grove, if you tap it for red or green, your opponent gains 1 life. Just not the correct card for this matchup. He will most likely be sideboarding it out, so that's why Caleb keeps shuffling it away.
Yeah, there you see Punishing Fire, 2 mana, instant that can deal 2 damage to target creature or player. Not great on those stats alone, but the fact that you can recur it by paying a red every time an opponent gains life, you can get it right back and just over and over. That combined with Grove of the Burn Willows, as you mentioned, as a way to give your opponent some life, will get it back for you repeatedly.
Mike Hawthorne gonna dig here with careful study.
Yeah, Caleb ended his turn by casting a Tarmogoyf before passing back. And that looks like we've got instant land sorcery. So it looks like a 3/4 Tarmogoyf.
Well, creature's gonna hit now. Mike's gonna put that Gristlebrand in the graveyard, but still no action with the Deathrite Shaman active.
And there's an Exhume.
So there you go, Caleb Durward. Oh, actually, Caleb is shields down right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he's going for it because Caleb tapped out for that Tarmogoyf. And Caleb's going to go ahead and use the Deathrite Shaman for mana so that he can cast Brainstorm and see if he can find a way to counter this Exhume. And it looks like he has not found a way to do it.
A little surprising.
Yeah, he did. You're right. He kind of went shields down against that Deathrite. Against the Reanimator deck. And Gristlebrand is now on the table. So this might be a tough spot for Caleb to get out of. I mean, I think a Gristlebrand on the table with your opponent above 7 life is always a tough spot to get out of.
This is one of the best answers here. The Baleful Strix, the Flying Death Touch Owl.
So, yeah.
Will at least trade with Gristlebrand. It will gain Mike 7 life, though, and that will allow him to keep chugging along.
So Mike decides it is too good of an answer, being the Death Touch Flyer, so he goes ahead and uses his Force of Will to counter the Baleful Strix.
That's going to pump the Tarmogoyf up quite a bit because the Baleful Strix is also an artifact and a creature, but not enough. Tarmogoyf is a 5/6, cannot break through Gristlebrand and has to hold on defense.
Creeping Tar Pit, the land for Caleb's turn, and he passes back to Mike, who still has yet to draw any cards off of Gristlebrand. Gristlebrand now swinging in for 7. It's going to put Mike right back up to 20.
Wanted to make sure that he got the 7 life out of it first, most likely. And here on Twitter, Zach Bird says, how about Whiteless Agent is the name, highlighting the fact that it's 4 colors without white and playing off of the name Shardless.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's decent.
Yeah.
So good call by Zach Bird. If you want to join the conversation, please, hashtag SCGINVI is the hashtag on Twitter, and we are checking it out, reading it, and occasionally we will interact and respond to you guys like that. I do like the Whiteless Agent. We'll see if that catches on.
So in the meantime, Mike cast a Careful Study, discarding a Lotus Petal and a land before passing back to Caleb. And Caleb's hand, I believe, is double Ancestral Vision and an Abrupt Decay. So he's going to go ahead and swing in with everybody, including a Creeping Tar Pit, just to try to do some damage here. It does knock Mike down to 9, but Mike
is it's a good old-fashioned race.
Yeah, we're racing here. Gristlebrand going to go ahead and connect for 7. Is going to put Mike back up to 16 and Caleb down to 4. And Mike is going to Brainstorm. He finds a Show and Tell, a Thoughtseize, and an Underground Sea off the top. He does have a Reanimate in hand, and I think a second copy of Gristlebrand. So not really a lot of action for Mike beyond what he has on the table.
But at will, he can draw 7 cards.
Yeah, he can get plenty of action. The scary thing is, if Caleb keeps this race up, if he attacks for 11 again, then Mike's not going to be able to draw any cards. He's going to have to keep, that Gristlebrand.
Yeah, well,
keep
the Gristlebrand is lethal here on the next swing. So Caleb, under the gun to find a Baleful Strix, he does not. Hacks it up.
Mike Hawthorne wins on the back of a 7/7 lifelinker that does not draw any cards in that particular game.
I mean, the lifelink was very key.
Relevant, yeah.
The fact that it was flying was key, so that Caleb only was on Baleful Strix as his only out for blockers. I'm still in a bit of shock, Joey, that Caleb put his shields down for that one turn, tapped his green mana source and his Deathrite Shaman, cast a Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised as well. I think you correctly identified that being able to kind of keep Mike from executing his game plan with the Deathrite Shaman was key, at least early for Caleb. He would be buying himself all sorts of time he would basically force his opponent to discard 2 guys at the same time. So it just buys him some time. If he's able to like careful study away 2 Gristlebrands, then Deathrite Shaman doesn't do enough.
Well, it would need to be 2 creatures, and the reanimation spell would need to be exhumed because the other one's target, so you can exile the target.
Sure, and it was exhume in that case, and he did have 2 Gristlebrands. He didn't have a way to discard 2 of them at the time, though, so it would have bought in that case, bought him a couple more turns until his opponent found a way to, such as a careful study, to discard 2 at one time. But yeah, Caleb falls in game 1 to Mike Hawthorne. I think that is the first time I've seen someone have a Gristlebrand on the table for any length of time and not draw any cards. No. I'm much more greedy than that.
If you were at 8 life, and if you had a Gristlebrand, would you activate it?
Okay, then I may be a little less greedy. But he was at quite a bit. He was at 20 at one point after the first swing. I can understand being a little conservative and going, all right, I'm at 13. I have Gristlebrand. Go. And then when it comes back, okay, swing. I'm at 20. Then I'm like, I want cards. Give me cards. But I'm not saying I'm correct. I'm just saying I'm greedy.
Okay, so how is Caleb Durward going to fight back? He's down 1 game here against the Reanimator deck. And
yeah, it looks like he's got an additional Force of Will to bring in. He's got 2
Does he have anything?
Thoughtseize and a Duress, though. He can steal the reanimation spells or a Show and Tell if he needs. But it looks like he doesn't have much more than that. He does have a couple of Fluster Storms, which could be relevant considering the reanimation deck, or the Reanimator deck tends to run off of 1 or 2 lands and doesn't typically have an extra mana to be spending.
Caleb does have 2 Ensnaring Bridges that can stop fatties in one sense, but if Mike sees that, he can just go down a different route, something like an Iona to just shut down Caleb's ability to cast spells and then
the Ensnaring Bridges definitely come in as well. Yeah.
But he can then just go for the Tidesprout Tyrant and start bouncing something later.
Right, yeah, you bouncing the things that are the problem cards.
So
certainly an option.
Mike's in the driver's seat here. He's won game 1, but still sideboarding. What is he going to do against Shardless Agent?
His sideboard, he's got a Bloodghast. That's a card I haven't seen in a while. Bloodghast, Ashen Rider taking the place of Angel of Despair in most of these Reanimator lists.
Almost strictly better.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the context of a Reanimator deck, it is strictly better because you're usually getting it by the same means, so the extra mana cost doesn't matter, or doesn't have much of an effect. So yeah, it seems pretty much like a strict upgrade. It's got 2 copies of City of Traders in there just to get a little bit of extra mana. Interesting. 2 Echoing Truth, 2 Show and Tell, a Flusterstorm, 2 Spell Pierce, a Coffin Purge, 2 Pithing Needle, and Inkwell Leviathan. So I think he probably brings in the Show and Tells, assuming his opponent is going to be fighting his graveyard. I think that that's usually the plan with the Reanimator deck. Usually, if you're playing Reanimator, you assume you're going to be hit with Graveyard Hate, so you bring in the Show and Tells.
Of course.
So those
none in this case, though, other than the main deck Deathrite Shaman.
Right, he doesn't know that. Presumably, he doesn't know that, though.
And we have updated the records for you on the screen. They were incorrect just a moment ago. So Mike Hawthorne at 9-2, Caleb Durward at 8-2-1.
I believe we had word that Brad Nelson is up a game in the other match. So Brad's still trucking on with his with Sneak and Show here, about to head into the standard rounds very shortly. And as you mentioned, he's a what did he call himself? A standard
specialist.
Specialist, that was the word.
Is what he dubbed himself. I think he needs some kind of fancier term, something maybe a little more sinister, or comic booky. I like comic book type grandeur.
Yeah.
If you're gonna call yourself a standard specialist, sure, that's accurate.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Player of the Year is pretty intimidating.
that is. But
And that's
that
when
was
he was given.
that was several years ago at this point.
Player of the Year for 2010.
Not to take anything away from that, a fantastic accomplishment for Brad Nelson.
It was historic too because he was tied with Guillaume Matignon at the end of the season, and they had to have a playoff in Paris 2011 for the Player of the Year title for 2010. And
Wrestling the Player of the Year away from Japan, which had held it for several consecutive years.
All right, so we're underway. Caleb leads with a turn 1 Deathrite Shaman. Mike says, I have a turn 1 Pithing Needle, and Deathrite Shaman is what he names as he indicates by pointing at it. So Deathrite Shaman looking a little weak now in the face of a Pithing Needle. Creeping Tar Pit, the turn 2 play from Caleb, and a second Deathrite Shaman.
Just another 1-2 on the board.
It still attacks, but that's about it. All right, a Thoughtseize from Mike. Mike is going to try to strip away all of Caleb's defenses.
Yeah, we'll get a chance to see Caleb's. Oh no, we won't get to see his hand.
This is a way to strip away his defenses, though. Force a counterspell.
And we see that Caleb has boarded.
Mike is going to fight back. So Mike is going to Force of Will right back, and now we're going to see Caleb's hand, which is Abrupt Decay, Ensnaring Bridge, and Mike says, I will take the Ensnaring Bridge, leaving Caleb with just an Abrupt Decay. So Thoughtseize does in fact resolve, putting Mike to 16. All right, so Mike, a second copy of Pithing Needle. So both players, he says, I'm going to name Deathrite Shaman.
All the way.
Which is an interesting choice, I guess, assuming that his opponent has a way to deal with the first needle that is not Maelstrom Pulse. He is sort of playing, setting up a backup. I guess that's really what the needle's for, and what else is it going to name?
Yeah, unless you just want to take a random shot at a fetch land. That's not really going to work unless you know which fetch land Caleb is using.
There is a way to deal with it.
Caleb's going to pick away, takes care of one needle with Abrupt Decay. Does that indicate that he has another one, or is he just setting up for the possibility in the future? Meanwhile, he's been going to town with these Deathrite Shamans, attacking Mike Hawthorne at 12 life. If Caleb can draw a few more lands here, Deathrite Shamans attacking plus creeping Tar Pit might just be enough. And there's a third Deathrite Shaman. But Mike's going to end of turn Entomb, and that has to spell disaster right here for Caleb.
Absolutely.
Unless he is sitting on some kind of counter magic. So Rafael Primo Buria on Twitter says, big fan from Brazil. I just want to give a shout out to him because I'm going to be in Santiago, Chile next week scorekeeping that Grand Prix. Maybe we'll see each other there, Rafael. Stop by the stage. If I don't look like I am tearing my hair out, maybe my head off, because scorekeeping Grand Prix is really tough. Stop by and say hello.
And Elish Norn is the target for Entomb. That'll deal with the Deathrite Shamans in a more permanent way.
LSV.
Not only will Elish
Lady Gaga, whatever you want to call it.
Lady Gaga. Yeah, I like the Lady Gaga as Elish Norn's nickname. But yeah, Elish Norn not only deals with the Deathrite Shamans, but also puts the Kibosh on the creeping Tar Pit.
Yeah, that is a very key thing.
Exhume.
Yep.
All right, Elish Norn, goodbye. So creeping Tar Pit does stick around, but it cannot become a creature if Caleb doesn't want to just immediately lose it to the effect of Elish Norn. So
the Grand Cenobite. I just love that name, Elish Norn, Grand Cenobite.
Is that bigger than a terabyte?
I don't know.
Seems like it would be.
I just actually don't know what a Cenobite is.
Me neither.
Is that naturally a 2/3, or is that the end result? Let's see.
I'm wondering as well.
Creature, artifact.
Yeah, it's got to be after the
so
after the effect.
That is the current power and toughness of Tarmogoyf after the Elish Norn's -2/-2.
So fetch land from Mike finds an Underground Sea. It looks like he's determining what he wants to cast here. Excuse me.
But he tapped his land first.
He did. Which is technically incorrect, isn't that right? I mean, you just usually announce the spell and then pay the costs. I know usually.
Either is correct.
Yeah.
I like to plan my plays out before tapping my lands.
It's a ponder.
He was gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, he's waiting for his deck back, in fact. Now that I realize it was ponder that he was trying to cast.
Yeah.
He finds Force of Will, looks like Show and Tell, and City of Traders.
So
He keeps it. Uh-oh, a couple of cards went to the, decided they wanted to jump into the graveyard. Not yet, you need to entomb them first. Or cast them. So Mike up a game here versus Caleb Durward, and in really good shape at this point. He's got a Pithing Needle on Deathrite Shaman. 3 Deathrite Shamans already in the graveyard for Caleb Durward, so Deathrite Shaman likely out of the game, besides the one of that Caleb could draw remaining in his deck, presumably after sideboarding, but it is going to be quite useless as a
Shardless
one-power guy.
Agent cascades into Thoughtseize. Get rid of the Force of Will.
Yeah, so Shardless Agent
Oh no.
immediately dies because of the Elish Norn.
Oh yeah.
So Caleb basically just gets a 3-mana Thoughtseize. But he needs to do something. It looks like Caleb's empty-handed at this point. He does have an Ancestral Vision on with just 1 suspend counter remaining, so at the beginning of his next turn he will be drawing some more cards. Tarmogoyf just got a little bit bigger. They have instant sorcery, creature, artifact, land, so it is a natural 5/6, but because of Elish Norn it's a 3/4. Oh, they've got something else in there? Oh, it's a 3/4. Okay.
And this is why I love you guys at home watching us and following along on Twitter. David Nitka says Cenobites are the demon-type creatures in Hellraiser.
Wow.
Those guys with the...
Like the pinheads?
Yeah, exactly. Pinhead, I think, was the name of the leader.
It was at least a nickname that people gave him. That's pretty creepy. I didn't know that, and that's really good to know.
Elish Norn is very creepy.
Yeah, so it certainly fits. And
Okay.
here we have Ancestral Vision.
Gotta
now.
have something.
Going to, looks like it's going to come
3
off suspend.
cards.
It does resolve 1, 2, 3 off the vision, 1 for the turn. He finds Baleful Strix, he finds Force of Will, and it looks like a couple of lands. Potentially
Baleful
something
Strix,
else in there.
normally good against Reanimator, not against Elish Norn.
No, he's going to draw a card, he's going to lose the Strix.
Just a 2-mana cantrip.
Yeah.
It cycles.
He's got a Misty Rainforest, he's got a Polluted Delta, he's got Force of Will.
Has to ship back.
It looks like he's got a black card in hand. Oh, it was Deathrite Shaman. It's the 4th Deathrite Shaman. It's about one of the worst cards he could draw because it also just dies to Elish Norn.
So we thought Deathrite Shaman was so key in this matchup. It is key because
It's
Mike Hawthorne names it with Pithing Needle, which allows him to get his Elish Norn out of his graveyard, and then it wiped out the Deathrite Shamans.
Yeah, I mean, it is. He identified it the same way we did about it being so key that he needed to find a way to answer it, and Pithing Needle
Chump.
into Elish Norn will do it.
Chumpa, chumpa, chump. Chumpa lump.
Yeah, Caleb
Loompa
just
loompa.
trying to stay alive, puts his Tarmogoyf in front of the attacking Elish Norn to buy him another turn. He cannot activate that Creeping Tar Pit.
Got another Chumpagoyf.
Yeah, essentially Tarmogoyf just a chump blocker at this point. An Echoing Truth drawn for the turn by Mike Hawthorne.
Really, I don't even know what he's looking for, Caleb Durward. These decks often maybe have like a singleton Maelstrom Pulse
And I don't
to
even
deal
know
with
if he
things like
does.
this.
I don't even see it.
Yeah, we did see he boarded in Ensnaring Bridge. He could draw another copy of Ensnaring Bridge and get his hand low. But doesn't look like he's got that. He has a Flusterstorm, the wrong answer when the threat is already on the battlefield. The Grand Cenobite takes a bite out of Caleb Durward, and
Yeah.
Caleb goes down to 1.
Takes a grand bite out of him.
Such
And
a-
there it is.
4/7. Strange power and toughness.
I really liked Mike's patience in that whole match, as we mentioned earlier with the Gristlebrand. But here, as he defeats Caleb Durward 2-0, he could have cast Echoing Truth on the Tarmogoyf and connected with the Elishnorn a turn early, but he decides to let Caleb chump block with the Tarmogoyf, holding the Echoing Truth for something like
Ensnaring Bridge, yeah.
or another problem card, because Tarmogoyf technically not a problem. It's just buying Caleb one more turn. So I like Mike Hawthorne's patience there, and I think that